Hello, welcome to the Echo Tips Podcast. Good to have you all with us this week, this being our 5th season of the podcast. Yeah, as of last week, we started our 5th season. This week's episode, we're going to be looking at a skill developed by Amazon in particular, I would imagine almost as a proof of concept, but maybe kind of a real handy tool to allow you to quickly dictate a note, a phone number, something you want, and then immediately have it sent to your email or read back to you if you need to. But before we get into that any kind of detail, and we'll even compare that to a former feature known as Notes, or now sometimes called Sticky Notes on the Echo Show line of devices. But before we get into those kind of differences and features, we're going to go to a brief message about our podcast, and then we'll be right back. This episode is brought to you by New Vision at Goodwill Industries of the Valleys, and also made possible in part by a grant from the Virginia Board for the Blind and Vision Impaired. New Vision is a program of Goodwill that provides information services and assistive technology training to individuals with visual impairments. Goodwill Industries of the Valleys is a nonprofit organization serving Central, Southwest, and Southside Virginia. Goodwill's mission is to empower individuals, strengthen families, and inspire communities. These shows are provided for educational purposes. This podcast may not be retransmitted, sold, or reproduced without written permission from New Vision. Well, hello again, and welcome back to the podcast. It's good to have you all with us this week as we are plowing forward into our 5th, yes, that's right, our 5th season of the podcast. For our returning listeners, we'd like to welcome you back, and for our new listeners who are wondering what they got themselves into, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is David Ward. I'm an assistive technology instructor with the New Vision program at Goodwill, and you'll find that our podcast, little nuggetized episodes, we try to keep it 5 to 10, 15 minutes long, somewhere in that range. It's lately somewhere between 5 to 10 usually. We go over that pretty often too, where we challenge ourselves to find new features, new nuggets, new things that roll out on the Amazon Echo. Sometimes we review hardware, we review skills, which are like apps on the Echo, and all those kind of things. Even we get questions or suggestions from our audience, and we'll mention how you can do that at the tail end of the episode. So first off, one of the things you might not natively think about, maybe if you're not a techie, is that every time you're giving the A-Lady a command, she's really kind of more or less transcribing that. And in fact, often maybe you saw I had an Echo Show with a screen. You may even see her typing out things or to do searches and stuff like that. But effectively, that's really what she's doing. And then she's kind of the equivalent of running a Google search or processing that through the artificial intelligence engine to try and figure out what you were asking her to do, especially if you have some non sequiturs or some weird phrases in there that she's not used to, so it's maybe not verbatim play Beethoven music, or something. Now, in particular today, we're going to talk about a really cool handy feature that may be handy for you when you you need some hands-free, you don't have time to go find a pen, maybe you can't find a pen, you need something to be written down, and then maybe just sent to your email. And they have a really super skill for this, made by Amazon themselves, and it's called VoicePad. Now, VoicePad, I would imagine came out, and I didn't go look at the timestamp on when it came out, but I would imagine if it came out later as kind of a proof of concept. There was a feature that still exists, it's kind of been rebranded a little bit over time, called Notes here in the United States. Now, unfortunately, I think VoicePad is listed as also a skill for U.S. English, so that may mean that it's only restricted here to the United States as well. I'm not too sure if that it correlates directly to country restrictions. But in particular, the age-old notes, and you can reference back in our notes in previous episodes where we cover that, is kind of like, people have described it as kind of like an auxiliary brain, right? You can store all sorts of notes in there. Super cool. Peggy Sue is going to China in February. You can add that note, and then later you can just say, hey, search my notes for Peggy Sue, and it'll delineate and find every note where you mention Peggy Sue. And so it's kind of cool, and you can clear those notes and things like that. Now, I said it's been kind of rebranded because with the new modern Echoes, especially the Echo 15 and stuff, this idea of sticky notes, like a literal sticky note you would stick on your refrigerator, has kind of come to the Echo Show line of devices. And so they kind of merged that concept of sticky notes with the notes. So now they can kind of correlate more or less. And in fact, I went into my notes on my A-Lady app, and you can pull up the Peggy Sue note, and at the bottom you can say make it a sticky note on your Echo, assign it to a particular Echo until, it's like a visual reminder or something like that. Well, anyway, this is just a much more bare bones feature called VoicePad, and I think it's just great for like just dictating, and probably the best part about it is that you can just give it a single voice command to send it to your email. So without any further ado, let's give it a demonstration. If you have an Echo in hearing distance of my voice, by all means, please shut its ears off. That way I'm not triggering your Echo at home. And just give you a second to do that. 3, 2, 1. Hopefully you got enough time now. All right, so let's give this a try. Alexa, open VoicePad.
Welcome to VoicePad. Mm-hmm. Say record to start recording. Mm-hmm. Say stop to stop recording. Mm-hmm. Say read to read everything back. Say email to email yourself your notes. What do you want to do?
Record.
Recording. Please speak now.
Mm-hmm. Pizza ingredients: pizza dough, cheddar cheese, mozzarella cheese, black olives, pepperoni, sausage, green peppers, onions. Stop.
Recorded.
Okay, so there we go. Very simple.
Recorded.
Okay. Read. Let's give this a command.
Recorded.
Oh, gotta get this right. Read.
Sorry, that command is not valid here. What do you want to do?
Read.
You want me to read you your notes, right?
Yes.
Pizza ingredients: pizza dough, cheddar cheese, mozzarella cheese, black olives, pepperoni, sausage, cream, pepper. Stop. Okay, so we go. That's the end. What do you want to do now?
Email.
Do you want to send all your notes to your email?
Yes.
Whoosh.
Whoosh.
Email sent. Thanks for using VoicePad.
Mm-hmm. All right, I think she stopped now. Yeah. Okay, so there you go. It's just that simple, really. Now, you could go back in there and create and do another recording and another recording. I don't know what the limit is, but it does seem that you can have several recordings. Once you have several in there, though, of the dictations, that is, it gets a little messy, though, because you ask it to read, and it starts, one you recorded a week ago. So I think it's really mostly good for, like, one-offs, like a scratch pad. Put it in there. And by chance, if maybe she cuts you off, maybe because you have too long of a pause there when you're doing your dictation, you can always, continue the recording and then have it sent to your email. And it'll send both of them to the email at that time. And of course, you can say delete, and that will clear things out as well. And so that's pretty handy. Now, I will mention one extra thing here. When you first try this at home, it's going to mention that you need to authorize it to be able to send things to your email account. And you'll have to do that inside your A-Lady app. But it was super simple for me. I opened up the A-Lady app on my phone. I went in there. I saw that the request had been there. I tapped on that. And then I had to go through the permission process. Now, it's a little bit of an oxymoron, but Amazon even makes themselves live by their own rules for their own apps because this was designed by Amazon. It will require you to log in once again with your Amazon credentials, even though you're in your A-Lady app, just as kind of additional verification. And then it'll pop up and say, okay, this skill is going to have access to, I think it's your profile, which just means your name basically, and maybe a photo. And it's also going to have access to your email address. Obviously, it needs both of those things in order to basically send you an email. And so that makes sense. You grant it permission, and then you're done. And then you can come back and do what I just did today with VoicePad, is quickly, dictate a message, say stop or whatever at the end, then say email, and off, whoosh, it goes. So it's pretty super simple. Now, I will mention too that one of the things, and you caught it happened to me again because I forgot that it does this, is that once you're in there, it kind of sticky and stays in there until you tell it to stop or exit. And now, by happenstance, once I did the email component, it automatically exited. But generally, once you're in there, if you don't say read, record, stop, or, email, it's just going to be sitting there waiting for a verbal command. It might pause and then come back, pause and come back until you say stop. And so you might get that, like you heard me, it was kind of like I'm trying to tell you guys what's going on, and it keeps trying to interpolate that as a command. So just bear that in mind, so that, it is a little different. Not all apps do that, and it doesn't have really visually on the screen, it probably, if I was looking over the screen, it would have been obvious that's what it was doing, but just bear that in mind. But I think it's a super cool thing. It would have been kind of nice if the native notes feature had this. It may be a chicken and the egg. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this came first and then notes came later. But you think they would have left the email component in? That's not in the main notes or /sticky notes feature that exists now. I went and particularly looked. I also looked to see if there was a printing feature inside the app. So, it's kind of, it'd be nice to see both of these kind of melded together. And you have some additional capabilities there. But I love the email. That's probably the single greatest thing, is that I can dictate something, blah, 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 and then say, email it to me, and then it's in my inbox later on, and I can cut and paste it or write it down or add it to my calendar or whatever I need to do, forward it on to somebody else. Just super cool. So, anywho, so that will bring this episode to a close. This isn't the only skill by any stretch of the imaginations on the store like this, but I have been personally delving through the catalog for ones that were particularly made by Amazon themselves, because I felt like they have a certain level of gravitas, refinement, a little more polish, or demonstrate features that just maybe haven't been seen before, and they're trying to show developers you could do this. And so it kind of results in some kind of interesting things. So anyway, that'll bring this episode to a close, and I'm going to stop rambling now, and I'm going to mention ways that you can reach out to us with thoughts, suggestions, or questions. I really would like to hear questions. That would be really super cool. And so you can do that by emailing us info@goodwillvalleys.com. Just say you're asking, you wanted to submit a question for the Echo Tips podcast from the New Vision program, and I'll get that email at some point. You can also go onto Facebook or Twitter and look up Goodwill Industries of the Valleys. By all the means, go on there, tell them that you love the podcast or that you have a question for the podcast, and we would love to hear your thoughts and suggestions. Now, our podcast is in a number of players, which you are undoubtedly listening to, if not on an Echo of your own at home now. But if you are listening onto a podcast player of your choice, by all means, please give us a thumbs up, give us a 5 stars, let your friends know. If you could even go in there and do a review, that would be fantastic as well. All right, well, that will bring this episode to a close. We thank you for listening, and we ask, what we often say at the end of an episode like this is turn those ears back on your Echo, start practicing some of the many things that you've learned. I'm David Ward for the New Vision program, and we do thank you for listening.
Thanks, Dave. Let me tell you a bit more. Let me put on my official sounding voice. Ahem. Ahem. This episode is brought to you by New Vision at Goodwill Industries of the Valleys and also made possible in part by a grant from the Virginia Board for the Blind and Vision Impaired. New Vision is a program of Goodwill that provides information services and assistive technology training to individuals with visual impairments. Goodwill Industries of the Valleys is a nonprofit organization serving Central, Southwest, and Southside Virginia. Goodwill's mission is to empower individuals, strengthen families, and inspire communities. These shows are provided for educational purposes. This podcast may not be retransmitted, sold, or reproduced without written permission from New Vision. Thanks for listening.